when I go out in the world, people do nice things for me all the time. Like, it's baffling sometimes how, like, oh, here, you can just have it. Or, hey, here, let me do this for you. Can I help? But it's a vibration, and it really like kind of paves the way for you the more that you make that shift. And if we could think on a bigger scale, like billionaires that would rather just move higher and higher on the Forbes 100 instead of like paying their employees a living wage. If we want to see crime decrease, when you treat people better, people respond better. So it would be a good selfish if more people would realize, as we lift up people, we lift all of us. It's it's a no-brainer in my book, but it's taken a while for people to pick that up.
Hello, and welcome to the New Thought Men's podcast, where we're building healthy masculinity in the world. It's great to have you with us. I'm Eamon, and today's guest is Chris Lahiff. Reverend Chris Lahiff is a licensed minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living and has most recently served as the spiritual director at CSL Cape Coral, Florida. He's passionate about spiritual growth, community, connection, and living his mantra that we are all one, and love with a capital L is all that matters. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here, man. It's so great to see you and be with you again. It's been quite a few years, so it's great to connect again. We, back in the day when we were kind of first starting, this is many years ago, the New Thought Men's community, we had helped the center you were at in Greater Orlando, CSL, start a men's group. And we started a few, maybe half a dozen. We helped half a dozen in Canada, in Arizona, in California, in, Colorado, different places. So it was an honor to have you guys support us and us to be able to support you, because this is actually what we learned from those is why we're doing what we're doing today, is to be able to create a plug and play style men's group, to have these talks from the summit, and then have a podcast and have a meditation and have a blessing at the end. So I'm just so grateful, bro. I'm so grateful for that. And you have come such a long way. I was in ministerial school when we were doing that. And now you've gone through ministerial school and you're through. So I really want to honor you. And I know that your path is beautifully unfolding, and that the perfect right place for you is showing up. And I'm glad you're in Colorado, here where I am at right now. So it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. And, and thanks again, for your help back then, because, it was somebody in the center that was really adamant and wanted to get that going. And I had no idea where to begin. And so you were instrumental, and I have to give you props on, I love this plug and play idea that you have, because that's a challenge sometimes for, a men's group meeting. What are we going to talk about? So you're filling that hole for them. So that's awesome. Way to go. Trying
to make it easy for guys to get the support that they really need. And I know for myself, of being in men's work for over 30 years now, this is just one of the most powerful things that has shaped my life in such a good way, in such a supportive way, to have brothers that are of high consciousness and really wanting the best for me, and I the best for them, to hold that higher awareness and consciousness. At the same time, doing that with that new thought philosophy, and at the same time, bringing men's work into it, and, classical mythopoetic men's work, which is just powerful and beautiful stuff. Your talk for the summit was on love. And I love how you put that. It was, what'd you say? Love with capital L. It kind of seems like it's your thing. So that's beautiful. The arc, bend the arc towards love. One of the probably greatest things that we can do is to learn to love, right? To open our hearts up. We as men, we have the armor on. We're out there fighting the good fight. We're doing the stuff, taking care of business, and when we come home, it's like, I just drop all the armor and, sometimes, or maybe not. Maybe, some guys are putting the armor on as they're coming home. But I think it's such a beautiful topic because it's one that we as men, I think, have struggled with. Yeah. There's just so many different perspectives, and certainly we go back into the Roman period, and there eight types of love, agape, eros, philia, stoic, ludus, mana, pragma, and philotope. How do we say that one? Anyhow.
Philolauta or something like that.
Philolauta, self-love. I should know that one better. I should get to know that one better. How do we as men grow out of what we were taught, which is grab the sword and sacrifice and die on the sword, and sacrifice ourselves, but instead to rejuvenate ourselves, to support ourselves, to nurture ourselves in our own health and well-being, and then be able to radiate that health and well-being out into our loved ones, our family, our community.
I think that's the $1 million question. We're conditioned to that. So many things, it means all these things to be a man, and it cuts off, like a nurturing side. It cuts off, just helping one another. Like, any kindness is a weakness, and those. There's such toxic ideas, but as the saying goes, you live by the sword, die by the sword. And I think men have been conditioned to, like you said, you wear that armor and you don't let people in. And how many people, it makes me right now just think about like veterans that come back, and they literally wore that armor and they literally took on so much, and then they come back and society's basically told them, you don't talk about your feelings, you don't show weakness or vulnerability. And how many people shut down, and it's really hard. I don't want to go into the dark aspects, but like of veterans and suicide rates and things like that.
I think that's okay. We can talk about that because 125 people commit suicide every day. 100 of those are men. My understanding is between 20 and 40 are veterans. Yeah. So it really speaks to the level of emotional well-being for men. What a concept. Emotional well-being for men, especially after going through a traumatic experience. That doesn't have to be war, but certainly war is one of them. Being in the military service is one of them. That I can't really even fathom. I've never been in service myself, and really honor those veterans and honor those people who do serve our country in that way through military service. So I think we just want to honor them. And especially, the 125 is like 10 times that to 20 times that. 1,000 to 2,000 people a day commit or attempt suicide. So it's just important to know those numbers so that we can address some of these issues. We know that when emotional well-being is allowed to thrive, especially with men, especially in men's groups, that we become more aware of our inner world. We become more aware of our own emotions. We become more adept at being able to navigate those emotions and those experiences, whether they're positive and love, like what we're talking about today, the joy, the happy, the good stuff that we love, or the shadow side, the depression, the suicide, all of the things that we struggle with in the world right now. And there's plenty of things that we're struggling with, as human beings right now on the planet, socially, politically, on so many different levels, work, AI, all of these things that are showing up that do bring that fear into our lives. And I just, perhaps you can talk just a little bit about like that internal work, that finding more wholeness. We call it the shadow work or shadow self. I think you referred to it in your talk as the dark parts, the fears, the judgments, all that stuff. Could you share just a little bit about that, Chris?
All those tough emotions and stuff that traditionally, like, we haven't been taught to feel or articulate or even like notice the differences.
Yeah.
In my own individual life, it wasn't until I realized, and it wasn't long ago, this is like in 2009, that, growing up, I had an explosive kind of a temper and like a response. And so it was like all those challenging emotions of, whether it's like jealousy or insecurity, shame when, I would do something wrong or something, all those things all manifested in the same way. And that was me like punching a hole in the wall, in my bedroom in high school.
Right.
Like that was my only like stress emotion response. And it wasn't until many years later that, through, going in through some counseling with my current partner, that learned, like, I had never learned words to express what I was feeling or to even like know what I was feeling.
Right.
I just knew it felt bad, so it must be this, and this is my response. And so that, it manifests as, I got rid of like the punching wall response, but I still had like a yelling response. And it's, so that to get to the question that you were just asking, that inner work of learning how to sense, and like taking a pause. So kind of, we talked about the skill at the end of the talk, but doing something that breaks that response. Like when I'm triggered or angry or upset about something, rather than going back to the old ways of how I was conditioned to just automatic response is anger and then stuff it down and that's it and forget about it.
Right.
Instead, like learning how to like, oh, wait, I'm feeling angry. Okay. This is my moment. Like, this is my chance now to like maybe learn and grow a little bit. What is it that I'm feeling? There's like the whole process that, they teach children nowadays, which is wonderful. Like, okay, so what am I feeling? Does it have like a color? Does it have a shape? And just like asking questions of sensing it can help us learn, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm feeling it in this part of my body. And so this kind of feels like that other thing when I was mad because little Johnny took the toy I wanted to play with, or just learning how to stop that response, when you get into that stress activated response, and then, okay, now what is it? And then, then I could learn how to communicate and articulate with the person I was upset with instead of my old default, which was always stuff it down.
Right. Oh my God. We learned that so young, it's just a part of who we are. And then we become adults and we're expected to be healthy and deal with your emotions healthy. And I honestly think like most of men's issues stem from the inability to, one, address the emotion that they're feeling, and two, to express it in a healthy way. Like, it sounds like we had similar upbringings in a sense of like, what are emotions that are okay for guys? Anger, love. Back in the day, it was love of a woman. You can express that kind of love, but not towards other people, maybe towards family, but not, that's probably as far as you should go with that. And it's just so fascinating. I mean, I think when I look at my phone and I look at all the emojis now, it's like, oh wow, yeah, like you know, as guys, we kind of need this whole emoji setup in front of us. Go, it's that one. No, maybe that one. Maybe a combination of it. You know, like that we need to start out with the colors. What color is, you know, where the kids are at, because we just haven't learned those. Even those of us who are maybe more highly sensitive, like myself, who have had intense emotional upbringing, and I have my anger, I have my frustration too, so I can relate. I'm a guy, you know, that's the acceptable parameter, right, in our society. And so to be this whole man, which is what we're being called to evolve into, you know, and even myself, like, I mean, 30 years of men's work, and I still get upset on the road sometimes. I still have human challenges. You know, we all have that stuff. I don't know that ever goes away, but we maybe grow into it is the hope, I guess.
Yeah, I think all that stuff, it's all within us, and you know, it's what we choose to nurture or choose to put forward. Yeah, that awareness is huge.
Yeah.
You know, I could flip my computer up and show you the sticker, but I can't because I'm using the camera. But it's, you know, the emotion wheel, and it's, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those, but it's kind of a cool thing that can help, you know, help start to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, and the awareness that you were talking about, like, it's an internal job, as we know in New Thought. It's like, if we want to change our life, then we change anything else about our life. You know, we change our thinking, we change our experience, we change what we're doing, we change how we feel, you know, all of these things. When we actually have a new thought and go, hey, I think I'd rather have happiness instead of anger, or joy instead of judgment, or, you know, whatever it is, then that is the intention of being able to work with the mind, because we know it begins in the mind. And you were talking about the Rosenthal effect. Would you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's also called the Pygmalion effect, and it was named after like a Greek sculptor that fell in love with his sculpture so much that it came to life. And so so the Pygmalion effect, or Rosenthal effect, is what we expect of our expectations shape what happens. And so it was directly with teacher and students. They expected this one random group of students, not knowing it was random. They thought that these kids tested special, that they would really blossom this year. And so the expectation led to that outcome. You know, it's the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
And it like, the pragmatic way is it affects how our underlying beliefs and expectations shape how we interact with others. And so there's also the reverse effect that also has a name. It's the Golem effect. And so if we have low expectations of somebody, we get through, you know, the metaphysical I believe in, but also the pragmatic of the way that we interact with them, we elicit that response and we get what we expect. And so, you know, like with parents, it's a powerful thing, like, you know, showing your child that you believe in them and giving them that extra attention. Or like, you know, the old, you know, back from my day growing up, you know, you'll never amount to anything. Like, I wasn't told that, not by my parents, but I was told that by a teacher or two. Yeah. And, you know, so that effect can go either way. And so again, it's like what I talked about in the talk is the balance, you know, like really thinking about each action I take, each thought I take. Does it lead to more love? Does it lead to more upliftment? Or does it lead to tearing somebody down? And like, my growth edge is seeing it with people in the news, or politicians that I strongly disagree with, and they do something or say something, and my mind's like, that, you know, a-hole, or
trigger.
Trigger.
Yeah.
And I'll label that person as less than.
Yeah.
But I need to remember there is no less than.
Yeah.
We're people we're the whole package, and we just manifest in represent different parts of that inner spectrum. That, the saying is that I try to teach my kids is there are no bad people. There's people that make bad choices, or people that make, that do bad actions. That, they don't condemn that. Like, as soon as we write a person off, kind of like the Golem effect.
Yeah.
One example that I've thought about a lot was with, like, when you see in the news like a school shooter, and right away the news pundits, they're like, this animal, this is a monster, and take the humanity away from that person who was obviously hurting, something was obviously wrong, and then we call them less than. Well, the next person that's thinking about a shooting is out there listening, and so right now they're like, I'm a monster. I'm a less than, So we can try to develop that compassion and that love, like, here's a human being that hurt. They did a horrible thing. And, if they're alive, we have to protect society from them, but let's not condemn them. That is, when you look at, like, the people that are in prison, the people that have done heinous things, almost all of them, like, if not all of them, have had heinous things done to them. And I've also seen the thing where we have that compassion for it when it's like a 12-year-old that does something horrible. Like, oh, well, they had this happen to them. This happened. They're in the foster home. They've been abused. But then at some point we turn that switch off. Oh, they're 18 and they did that. And then we change it. Like, when did we lose that compassion? It hurt people that hurt people.
Hurt people. Yeah. Oh man. That is, it is a part of the human nature, right? Because it makes us want to demonize. Like, it makes you're bad, I'm good. Like, this is the whole kind of Christian and many other religions perspective. And if it has to fall into two categories, like good and bad, then half the world's going to be in the bad, or if not more, and some are going to be in the good. And I think that's why seeking this greater, the third perspective is how I put it. Seeking the third perspective, like, how do we find that place? Like you were talking about, it is balance. It's just finding that place of balance. Like, oh, right, I am not necessarily the good guy in this situation. I like some of the videos they've done, a good guy with a gun, and all the guys are pulling out their, no, I'm the good guy. No, I'm the good guy. Hey, I'm the good guy, and it's just like, is that the reality? Is that the reality? And in some cases, of course, there's very active shooter situation. There's a pretty black and white situation, in a sense. And at the same time, we know that those guys are lone wolves. We know that they don't have the support that they need. Certainly not the kind that they would want. And so, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole. Columbine here in Colorado was one of the first big ones. And it was very painful. It was very painful for us as a community, a Colorado community. And, you want to demonize, just like we want to demonize, oh, those politicians, those guys, the bad guys, not the good guys, but the bad guy, and so the more we can move past this black and white, this and that thinking, the more we have options. That's why I like the third option. That's really very much a new thought perspective of, like, how do we get past these two, the either or, the Republican or the Democrat kind of choice? How do we get to these third, fourth, fifth, sixth different choices, so that we are at true choice, so that we are able to make an actual decision for ourselves, instead of go, I want that one or that one. The choice between the, which one's the worst one. Let's get rid of that one and keep the one that's not so bad. It's not a good political scenario. When you talked about the Rosenthal effect, the in science, the observer effect, right? That's just the observer effect. We affect what we're looking at through our consciousness, through our expectation. And we get what we intend. We get what we put out there. We get what our consciousness and our perspective, our perceptive lenses that have been shaped through our whole lifetime, from being a baby and all the energetic interactions with our parents and the negotiating, of teachers and, family and siblings and other kids and all of that stuff growing up and high school. And then we get out in the world and real people and all of these things that have shaped the reality in a very unconscious, usually in a very unconscious way. Let me say that, usually. But when we come to a point, and New Thought, this was my experience and my transformational experience in New Thought was, finding that and then being able to realize that we do have choice, that we are absolutely, and that's actually one of our imperatives that we choose in life. Because even when we don't choose, we're still choosing by default, because it's the same patterns that are going in our head. Oh, okay, I'm not going to choose, but then everything in the program just keeps running. The computer just keeps running. Oh, we're not going to stop until you give us different information. And so that's why I love this quote by Gandhi. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Such a powerful quote by Gandhi, because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we're constantly at crossroads every second of the day. We can have a different thought or a different action or path every second of every day, and
right,
and that becomes like you said, your destiny when it leads up to it. And so like it doesn't matter so much like what's come before us. That's come before, and here I am.
Mm-hmm.
We can't change anything. And even if something happens right now that is either awful to me or something awful I did or whatever, we're right back there. Okay, so which path, which choice, or not to go with the either or, because it's bigger, but which path is going to lead towards greater fulfillment or greater resolution down the road, as opposed to like knee-jerk armored response of this is how I respond and that's what I got to do. Like, slow down and think about it. Like, there's always, in that balance thing, there's always one path or some paths on this part of the spectrum that are going to lead to just more harmony within yourself and in the world. So asking that question constantly.
Yeah. It's easy to just go unconscious and go down the same paths and do the same thing.
And complain.
And complain about it. Exactly. Yeah. And then and then complain that we're getting the same result by doing the same thing. Definition of insanity. But I think to be able to take a breath and step outside of those moments, like you said, there's that conscious moment, and it's almost like a blink of an eye before that first neuron hits down the pathway, the groove in our brain that says, I am blah, blah, blah. And it just keeps going right down that neural pathway, right? That's how we know through, neurobiology. That's how we know how brains develop. Oh, okay, this is a common pattern for me. I'm going to do that. Keep doing it every day. Okay, now it's a pattern. Now it's a habit. Now it's my destiny. Yeah. So to be able to move out of those old programs, we have to take a moment. We have to look within. We have to say, okay, where did I get that? Why am I doing that? Hey, Eamon here. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Being a man these days is tough. We feel pressure from relationships, our friends, other men, from society, and even from ourselves. It can be lonely and we can feel isolated. I know I have. 15% of men in America have reported having no close friends, and 73% have 5 or fewer friends. How many other men do you talk with regularly about the most important things in your life? Well, we have a free video and a PDF on how to create deeper conversations and friendships with the men in your life. Click the link in the description below. Also, please rate and review this podcast, or like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. It helps us reach more people with uplifting content like this. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now back to the podcast. Why am I doing this? What in my past has traumatized me, has told me, has whatever it was. Maybe it was an 80s rock band who told me something and I took it in and now I'm living that life, you know? And so it just really speaks to how powerful our conscious mind is and how powerful we are as manifestors to say, you know what? I really don't want to go down that neural pathway again of anger. I'd rather try one over here of love, you know? And I thought that was beautiful is people doing their best, you know, the assumption that people are doing their best.
It goes against our instinct to think that.
Right.
The instinct is quick to blame and think the worst of them. And I mean, that's our instinct, or at least it was my instinct. And maybe that, you know, is conditioning and how I grew up. So it's learning, like you said, that neural pathway, learning how to step out of that rut and create new neural pathways. And it doesn't happen overnight. You know, we can have that aha and realization and be like, yes, I got it. But if it's something you've been doing for 40 years, it's not going to go away that quickly. You're not going to create that new pathway that quickly. But it does happen. And real quick, something I've been itching to say since you started talking about this is how great is it when you start doing the work and start, you know, the inner work and looking at how our responses are and stuff. I remember, so, you know, we're both on similar paths. So I remembered it was about year 1 or 2. I think it was probably the second year of practitioner training. And, you know, in my history before that, I kind of went through cycles. When things would come up, I'd go to default thinking and it was just the end of the world. Every time I would get into that space, whether, you know, it was just stuffing stuff down that all blew up at once in a big fight with my spouse or whatever. But I remembered, you know, in one of those moments, everything seemed like just so dark and like this horrible, I hate it. And then I had to, you know, take the dog out for a walk because we didn't have a yard. And I'm just like fuming, and those default thoughts of old were coming up. And all of a sudden I had the realization, oh, I'm in that space again. And then I had the realization that, you know, I haven't been in this space. Like I used to get in this space every 3 months. I don't even remember the last time I was in this space. It's been like at least a year. Like, yeah, you know, like this stuff really works. And just having that realization, like, you know, that's gold when you get to that place of, I mean, you know, and like I said, 40 years, you know, I still have many more moments like that. And, you know, to be honest, I just had one recently, but it had been a long time, you know, a few years since I was in that spot. So it's worth doing the work. And then just what an amazing feeling it is when you have that realization, like, oh, change is possible. You know?
Yeah. And that's it. It's change. Whether it's personal change or whether it's societal change, I feel like it's hard. We're hardwired to resist change. Change means new danger to the caveman mind, you know, the reptilian brain back there. Danger, fight. You got to fight or flight, man. It's not a good place to be in.
Danger, thanks. You know, I don't want new danger. I'll stay with the old danger that I already know sucks, but stick with it anyway because I know it.
I'm comfortable with this danger. The unknown is the the thing. And yet we're spiral. Our DNA is spiral, our galaxy is spiral, we're always spiraling upwards and outwards. In my view, that's one of the reflections that nature tells me is the wisdom, because I see it in us. There is this evolution. If we step back and look at history, there's this evolution of humankind. It took us a long way to go from a single-celled organism to these conscious thinking, aware people. And how many, millions, hundreds of millions of years did that take? How beautiful is that we are these things now that get to have conscious thought and get to say, you know what, I'm going to do this instead of this. I'm going to try this instead of this. But I think the change is one of the hard things. And I think we're being forced, and usually change comes at the end of the forcing. So like, we're forced to change. Like, we're not like, hey, I think I'll go change my life today. Let me go, do something. Right. Even though we talk about this all the time, and in New Thought, it's like, even if you're like, hey, I'm going to go live my dreams, right? New Thought says I can have my dreams. I can manifest that. Okay, great. But then, we realize, oh, I've got to change my behaviors. I've got to change my habits. I've got to, I've been going through this, this money thing where I'm really growing my abundance awareness. And a part of that was doing this Dave Ramsey process, which I highly recommend. And it's like 7 steps. And the first step is like, get a little emergency fund. The next step is to get rid of all of your debts. What a concept. Abundance means getting rid of all of them. Now, for me, that meant a lot of change. That was kind of hard. I am used to going out and eating whenever the heck I want to. I'm used to just getting the thing or doing the stuff. And so it took a lot of effort to change my habits to be able to move into that space of being debt-free. And it's so shifted my conscious. I didn't know how much I was worrying about money. Like it was just kind of a low line kind of buzz that's there, a low line fear actually that's there for me anyhow. How do I get better at saving? How do I think about, oh my God, investing or, providing for myself when I need it in my elder years? All of these things just showing up that are requiring a change, that are requiring something different to happen. And we see it in our society right now. We see it in our politics. We see that we're shifting and changing. We see it with AI and technology. I think the only thing that we're missing in this mega time of change is spiritual change. And actually, that's not true either, because most people are leaving organized religions. They're like, I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Growing up in a Catholic church, I completely understand that. Like, what are you guys doing? What's, this particular, and I know there are people that religion works for, and that's great. We bless you. But for me, as a rebel and as a seeker, it did not work, which was wonderful because it caused me to go. And then, like on your path, I had this peak experience that was like, oh wow, I'm more than this. I experienced my soul. Okay, what does that mean? And started this whole, seeking for me of different religions and looking at different spiritual paths and faiths and ultimately finding New Thought and men's work, which are the 2 things that have just absolutely changed my life 100%.
Powerful.
Yeah, crazy beautiful, my friend.
Indeed.
So let's swing back around. I know we're running short a little bit on time. We'll wrap it up here shortly, but let's get back to love.
Okay.
Let's get back to love, because I think I agree with you. And I know probably not everybody does, that love is the ultimate thing. They're like, no, money is the ultimate thing, or, my inner peace is the ultimate thing, or not being beholden to another is my thing, whatever that thing is. But share a little bit more about why love is the thing that we in New Thought embrace, that we see, that we get, that is a part of our perspective and prerogative of what this divine cosmos, what this spiritual universe looks like for us. And why is love such a high rated thing? It's a big question. Sorry, Chris.
I mean, ultimately, in my experience, like, love is the thing. I know we have something that was handed down from a couple generations on my wife's side, and it's an embroidered thing, and it says God is love. And I think, I know God is kind of a loaded word sometimes, but I think those two words are interchangeable. I think the universe is love. Like, honestly, love is it. Like, it is the foundation. That I don't know how else to kind of encompass it. Like, everything is just, that is the life force. It is the thing that animates us. It is the thing that inspires us, that keeps us on that upward spiral of constant expansion. And it's just the thing itself, the universe or the infinite, to know itself. Like, it can't be separated. Love is what holds it together. But love is, again, it's another loaded word like God. Like, it does, even love with a capital L does not come close to doing it justice. It's just the very thing itself that is held together by itself, that wants to know itself. So it had to find a way to step outside and see it for what it is, this magnificent, infinite, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But it couldn't know that eternal, infinite bliss until it knew something else. And so it created, through thought, like we're living in a dream, it found a way to pretend that it's not that, in order then to know it for the first time. That's how I see it all. So everything that we see here, like the most awful things that we see, is love in disguise to wake us up, to show us, like, this is where you make a choice. What do you want? And we have that drive within us, that pull, like, that's not what I want. I want something bigger. I want something better. And I think that's what our whole evolution is that we just finally get back to that place where, like, yeah, man, it's just love. And that's what we are. And, when I used to, be in part of Soul Evolution Collaborative, that was the joke, and then we just poof. And that's when you poof and you're back into that infinite ocean, but knowing it for what it really is. But all of that leading up to it is just to show us.
Yeah. The very human experiences of the pain, the struggles, the challenges that we as human beings, both individually and collectively, of what we have to work through to find that expression of, and I guess I would put it like this, is like, love is free will. It's that ability to choose love, or the ability to choose hate or pain or struggle or anything else. To assume that people are jerks, or to assume that people are doing their best. We get to choose. We always get to choose, with this particular conscious awareness and choice process that we have as conscious beings, that we have as individual thinkers. So we're given this choice, and it's like, choose anything you want, and then like, well, okay, let me try this one for a while. Let me try this one. Let me try this one. But I think you're right. Ultimately, it comes back to a place of givingness. It comes back to a place of love, of the cosmic expression of this kind of lovingness through everything. I mean, if everything is a part of this expression, I like to look at it in terms of atoms, like protons, neutrons, electrons. So we're human beings made up of 7 octillion atoms, and all moving around. Those electrons are spinning around and creating electromagnetic field, and we're thus these electromagnetic field of all of our conscious thoughts and beliefs, our unconscious thoughts and beliefs, all the baggage that we got. And we're in this bubble with it. And that is a specific frequency, right? Like all of those different frequencies are together in this one frequency. And so Eamon's frequency is this, because he's got like a little bit more love and a little bit less hate, maybe. According to that, then we're drawn to like-minded people, right? We're drawn to similar vibratory people who are in a similar vibration to us. And so
situations and life circumstances. Yeah, I like that you brought up it's a vibration, that it absolutely is. It's that frequency. And, was it Tesla that said, when we think about the universe in terms of energy and vibration, we unlock everything. And that was the whole really gist of what I was getting at. Anytime, always making choices, unconsciously or not, but making that choice of where you want to go, what is harmony for you, and just asking what creates more of that, what choice do I have here, and what's going to lead in the path, in the direction that I want to go. And that's your vibration. The thoughts that you hold creates that vibration and resonance. And I listened to a podcaster a lot that called it the good kind of selfish. When you're thinking like that, when you're just out in the world, like, okay, this cashier made a mistake, so I can either berate them and let them know I'm disappointed or upset, or I can say, I can choose patience and compassion. 2 different paths. What I've noticed as I've really made that shift is when I go out in the world, people do nice things for me all the time. Like, it's baffling sometimes how, like, oh, here, you could just have it. Or, hey, here, let me do this for you. Can I help? But it's a vibration, and it really like kind of paves the way for you the more that you make that shift. And if we could think on a bigger scale, like billionaires that would rather just move higher and higher on the Forbes 100 instead of like paying their employees a living wage. If we want to see crime decrease, when you treat people better, people respond better, which again, it's like the Pygmalion effect, expecting higher, expecting the best from people, we tend to get it. And so it would be a good selfish if more people would realize as we lift up people, we lift all of us. It's it's a no-brainer in my book, but it's taken a while for people to pick that up. But I think that's where that shift in consciousness is hitting a threshold. More and more people are realizing, like, look, man, when we don't pay people and then they end up living on the streets, and then we end up, complaining when they commit crime, or this guy can't afford baby formula, so he's out there robbing a store, like we're reaping what we have sown.
Yeah.
We just start to realize it's the good kind of selfish. We lift other people up. We really lift ourselves up.
Yeah. And I mean, when we look at it from the perspective of life is, so if we're here to learn from it, if the soul is here with the body, the mind, the heart, the spirit, in this human paradoxical experience of the soul and the human being that I am, or any of us are, we look to the nature of reflectivity. Like, what am I seeing out there? And that's reflecting this in here. So the more we see, billionaires, being greedy, the more there can be pain and suffering in the world. The more that they're like, I'm deserving, you're not, kind of scenario. But if we move into this reflective space of, I see love, I see abundance, I see joy, I see basically the new thought philosophy, optimism. What a concept. That's like, hey, how do we not only manifest what we're seeing, because we're doing the inner work, we're exploring more love, we're practicing taking the armor off and standing there with our heart beating out here, being vulnerable with our emotions, as the metaphor is. As men, the more we practice that, the more we get comfortable with it. Is somebody going to come along and poke at it? Probably. Are you going to let them poke at it again? No. So again, finding that space where there are like-minded people, the people who see that reflection out there is one of love, is one of peace, is one of helping, is one of service, of I'm here to be that goodness for as best as I can, to bring my gifts and my talents, my genius, my brilliance to this world, because look around, it needs it. We need all the gifts and all the help and all the support that people can possibly get right now. First world countries, third world countries, it doesn't matter. I think everybody is really struggling right now, to some degree or another. And for us as a spiritual organization, as New Thought, to be able to go, hey, we hold this high vision. We are embodying all of this goodness, the good stuff. Remember that all religion says we're deserving of, but we can't have. No, we actually deserve it, and we can have it. And we want to create more abundance, more joy, more love, more peace, more wisdom, more beauty.
Yeah. And
when that capital, capital L love, more of that capital L love in the world, because we see the world needs it.
Mm-hmm. And when we, individually do our work and we start to see the results, like what I mentioned earlier, like when you see, like, oh, I chose a different thought. Oh, and things are going better. When we start to see that, it just reinforces it. And, we'll continue to see that out in the world. But like you said, that change is hard, and there's a lot of people that aren't ready for it.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of community to me, is because we don't have to work so hard at holding that high vision like we do out in the world. We can be with other like-minded people who hold this high vision, who have a greater perspective and knowingness of that we are these spiritual beings, and that's the real kind of where the blueprint of us comes in. We can deny that. We can deny that foundational divine understanding and be an angry person, be a person who struggles, all of that stuff. That's our free will, right? That's our choice. But we can also join a bunch of other people who believe the same. And those are the people I want to hang out. I want to hang out with you, Chris. Like, I love hanging out with people in New Thought and making this seeing of a greater world, a better world, a more loving world, a more just world. I'm interested in hanging out in that space and having that perspective and working that in through my thoughts, my words, my actions, my habits, to create, my beliefs and my destiny. And other people who are committed to that is like, yeah, you are my friend. Welcome.
I love that. I agree 100%. Like, community is where, this is really needed and where it is growing. It's great to be in, Centers for Spiritual Living or a men's group, where you're in community of people that are thinking similarly. And it's like when you go to a retreat for like 4 days or something, and you just get raised up in that vibration and you feel great and you're just surrounded by awesome people. And then you go back to work on Monday morning, and then it's like, it feels so heavy. And you're like, why couldn't I stay there?
A little bit of a crash. Yeah.
But what I really like is you bring some of that with you. And so when we're in our communities and lifting each other up, when we go back out in the world and other spaces, we bring it along. And I can look back over the last 10 years profoundly, where I've seen shifts in places that I've, in like a job I held for 4 years, it became just this awesome place. And it was, I had a manager that he's atheist and didn't think anything about new thought or planting seeds, but he knew who to hire because based on vibes and attitudes, and just created this awesome space. And so I would come in and talk about what I was studying, and people would be like, oh, it's really cool, and see them shift. And so we create change all the time, whether, and again, like with the free will, whatever we're choosing, we're creating change. And so if I'm still choosing to be guarded and judgmental, I'm creating change there. And you can see it when somebody, comes into your workspace or comes into your community, and all of a sudden they're coming in and bringing in that judgmental attitude and, complaining and seeing the worst instead of seeing the best. You can feel that shift. Yeah. And then you either see them, depending on what the general feel of that space is, you either see them drift back out or see that toxicity kind of start to fester. And then you see some of the people that you resonate with fade out and go on to other places. Mm-hmm. So we're always making those choices, and it's powerful what we bring with us. So I love that you're creating that community.
We like being in that vibratory pattern that's similar to ours. So we're going to draw people who are like us. So if you're a complainer, I hate to say it, you might want to shift that habit and find a little more love in your life. And then, people show up. Bosses, fellow coworkers, friends, community start showing up in this amazing way that you're like, this is awesome. This is great. That's the beauty of community, and that's the beauty of love. It opens us up. I think the practice for us as men is to just keep opening our hearts to the world, keep opening our hearts to each other, and keep opening our hearts to ourselves. I think for me, that's, back to the glass. It's like when we have a full glass, when we're loving ourselves, then we have ample to love others with. It doesn't become I have to hold on to this because I don't know how much more love I'm going to get. It's like, I'm giving it away because I know that it amplifies. I know that it's going to show up in other ways, coming back to me in other ways, in beautiful ways. And so, I think love is one of those foundational principles that we try and grasp in our brains, like, the cosmos. If you could even imagine what the cosmos is. I'm sorry. To put it into money terms, okay, like the Earth, we're like a millionaire. The universe, that maybe is a billionaire, right? Which we can't even really conceive of on some level, even though there's billionaires out there. But then a trillionaire, the cosmos is a trillionaire. Our brains can't even conceive a trillion, what that really means. And so we can't really conceive what this cosmic thing is, much less how it's interconnected, how it plays, how we're a part of it, how love plays into that as an energy. It's an energy and a vibration. How, it becomes this like mind-boggling thing, which it should be, right? It should be way bigger than we can possibly conceive. And it should be fascinating. It should be like, oh, wow, yeah, if I could glimpse that. I think our problem is we get it down into this. That's why I wanted to bring in what are the different forms of love, right? Love is this, right? Love is relationship with this intimate person, right? And somebody who's in that relationship gets it and understands it. But somebody who doesn't is maybe working on love of brothers and sisters, love of others, the agape, love of community, or love of self, to be able to build up to that. So I think for us as men, love is a good road. Love is a good path. If you want that as your your foundational place, which it sounds like you do, Chris. That's where you come from. Love with a capital L, man. That's my my grounding point. That's what keeps me grounded. I think it's a powerful thing for us as men to look at what it means to us, the different forms of that, and to really genuinely raise that vibration, open our heart, open that chakra in the center of our chest, and really allow more love into our lives and allow more love through our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this conversation, Chris.
I do too.
Speaking of love,
wanting the best for somebody else, is key. That's part of that love. And so, like, if all those people that we feel are harming us, harming society, if we want the true best for them, that's what we should want, because when they receive their best, they don't have that need to harm and to pillage and all of that. So that's just wanting the best for others, wanting the best for ourselves. And then I love to, again, that you said within. It has to start here, and you can't do that I'm still learning how to do it myself, and so it's a process, and it's a permission, but that has to be, I think, primary, because you can. I don't think it's right when people say you can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself. I mean, we do. We love other people, and even when I'm back in like self-loathing days, I still loved others, but I know what I was giving wasn't my best, and so. If I can learn how to love myself first, then what I'm giving is my best.
Chris, so we will have to. This could be part 1 of part 2. Maybe next year we'll do love part 2. But it is such a powerful thing, and so thank you for bringing this today, man. It's really important for us as human beings to look at this, especially right now when compassion seems to be out the window. When politicians are putting spikes up on flat areas so homeless people can't sleep on a warm grate or whatever. It's compassion, love. I mean, so much comes from love, compassion, understanding, wisdom, kindness, just general kindness.
It goes so far, man.
What's that?
It goes so far, kindness.
Yeah.
It's what we need.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, final question.
All
ding,
right.
ding, ding, on to the bonus round. The final question that I've been asking this year is, what does divine masculinity look like in the 21st century?
I go to the idea that there's kind of like our human masculinity, and then there's our divine masculinity. And when I say human masculinity, I talk about like what we've been conditioned to feel. Like you said, the armor. You're tough. You don't cry. You hold up the world and never let them see you sweat or whatever. Like
societal programming. Yeah.
Whereas, I feel like divine masculine is just part of that infinite nature that we have. We all have, the divine feminine and divine masculine within us. And so learning what we create, I think divine masculinity for the 21st century is learning that kindness is not weakness, that it actually takes a lot of strength and toughness to put forward something that's contrary and opposite of what we've been told forever. To say, no, it's okay. It's okay to hug another man. It's okay to say, I love you. It's okay to, to have compassion and forgiveness when somebody harms us. Revenge is the old masculinity. The divine masculinity says, what happened? How were you hurt? How can I help? So I think divine masculinity is just that realizing you don't have to live up to anything to be a man. You are just by existence.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it's okay to be soft. I'm not saying like be a doormat. Or that people just walk over you. Definitely not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying bring a different approach. Divine masculinity is unconditional love, forgiveness, and just recognizing we're all on our individual paths. And do I want to lift somebody up or do I want to tear somebody down? And that divine masculinity wants to nurture and lift you up like a loving father would want to provide.
What is greater strength? Is it in the vulnerability and the lifting up of someone or the beating down of someone? Yeah. Really, where is the greater strength lie? I think it's hard. It's much harder to lift someone up. It's easy to tear something down. It's easy to be an asshole. That's the easy path is the one I think that we take as a society for the most part. But really the difficult path is in building something, creating something, being a part of the change, being a part of compassion and love and kindness in the world right now, especially. Right now, especially.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Love it. I love it. Oh, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today in this podcast. I just love seeing you. We'll definitely have you back next year. Talk about love part 2.
There we go. Thank you.
And yeah, thanks so much for being here, brother.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us today. There's more to come, so stay tuned in.